This accordion nerd video is being made to talk about the subject of vibrato. And with the accordion, you have the option to kind of, as you're holding out the note, you can change the timbre of it a little bit. And vibrato is one of the main examples of it. So, for example, if I'm going to play a single note here, now let's add some vibrato. Malfunction there, but you get the idea. So basically, the two primary ways to do it, and to do vibrato on the accordion, is either to shake your right hand, the one that's holding the note down. So here's an exaggerated. Very cool, kind of like electronic sound there. So. It also has a little bit of like a harmonica-like sound if you're just playing single notes like in a melody in that way. But then the other way is to use the left hand. Now basically the principle of both of these methods of doing vibrato is the same, is that you're shaking the instrument and therefore sort of interrupting the flow of air that is sounding the reeds and just causing kind of a disruption, modulation that way. I'm probably not using the right terms for that. So with the left hand, what you can do is kind of shaking your left hand in the bellows strap. So there you have like a little bit more of a pronounced effect there, right? Whereas using the right hand version, you get a little bit. It's a little bit more subtle. So now if you're doing just like a single shake, kind of a bigger shake like this, then you get the more. But one of the things that you can do is just kind of like tensing, I don't know, maybe see me shaking a little bit, is kind of like tensing your muscle as you play the note. And that's like a nice way to kind of add expression. So. For example, a little Batman there. And now, the situations in which you would use this are varied. Basically, both of these examples that I've given you are just using right hand notes. So obviously, if you're playing, you can kind of, and single notes too, right? So then, but then the other kind of factor is that it's a little bit different depending on whether or not you're using chords. Right here, I have, and it's pretty pronounced. You can hear that compared to. So here, the difference between the two types becomes a little bit more pronounced. Like this left-hand one feels a little bit more dynamic in that way. It's like it's a wider vibrato, basically. And now, of course, you can't really do the left-hand one when you're playing the bass machine, right? Just want to avoid that kind of a strain there. So usually, if I'm playing just a single melody, then I'll use this left-hand vibrato. And it's kind of a nice orchestral thing that that kind of changes the sound. It's really nice if you're playing in a band or if you're doing an overdubbed arrangement or something like that. But if you're playing like here, now I've just got my palm on the fingerboard and I'm shaking the instrument. And now when you do this, that becomes a really pronounced effect where you can still kind of get the effect of the vibrato and use both hands or just the left hand at the same time. Now the main thing that I notice is the further out the bellows is from the center of the body, the less pronounced this effect is, right? Because the shaking has to go through all of this. So I notice that if I'm out here and I'm doing either here, you still get the same effect if you're doing this left hand one, way out here, but if I'm trying to do, it's just not the same It's a little bit more subtle, but it seems to me that the closer the bellows is to a closed position, the more pronounced the effect is of the vibrato. That's been my experience. If you've messed around with this stuff and you've just kind of discovered different things about it, by all means, feel free to comment. Point out anything like that. I'd love to explore this stuff with you guys a little bit further because I am, as the series says, I am an accordion nerd, and this stuff is very fascinating to me. But this is one of the really cool things that kind of distinguishes the accordion from the piano in a lot of ways, is that you have, overall the approach is very different, besides the fact that many accordions have keys, piano keys like this. But the approach to making sound and to shaping your notes and your phrases becomes a lot different. And vibrato is another really good example of that. You just really can't do that with the piano without putting stuff on the strings. And even then, it's not as clear of an effect. So this is one of the really cool things about the accordion. Now, one thing that happens, right, is that some accordions are tuned with 2 or 3 sets of middle reeds, right, and this is what we call this musette effect, or there's a bunch of different names for it, or wet tuning is another example, right here. Here is that on this accordion. So here you still get that vibrato effect coming through. But if you have one of those like super classic French, triple musette kind of things, you may hear the vibrato less, because the idea is that this tuning of the this wet tuning gives you a vibrato effect anyway. So it does become a little bit less noticeable if you have a really heavy vibrato kind of in the tuning of your instrument. Like this, you hear this wah, 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 wah. Now, of course, technically, these are beating tones that are happening. It's not really vibrato in a true sense, in the kind of like singer sense of like actually sort of vibrating the air, but it's still a kind of a modulation effect that's happening on the tone of the instrument. And so when you're using that, it just does become a little bit less noticeable to do some of these vibrato effects. But still, you can kind of So that's my example. Okay, hope you enjoy. Let me know if you have any other questions or any such thing like that. Just a little thing here.